Mic check, mic check. Hopefully this shit's working right. Oh God, here we go. Here we go. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to people in the Midwest. Good afternoon to people on the East Coast. Good morning to people over on the West. Welcome to TNT Joe-Fi. That stands for Tech News that Jerome Ortega finds interesting. This is episode something. I lost count a while ago. How's everybody doing today? It's kind of an overcast day here in Chicago. Not much going on. Just another day in quarantine. Just another day talking about tech news, seeing what else is going on. So today is kind of a slower tech news day. I think the big news that's out right now is, I guess, the embargo lifted for people to share how they feel about the iPhone SE. You know, obviously the only ones who get the iPhone SE right now are the top tier, reviewers, or the big name reviewers, or whatever you want to call it. I won't say top tier, but the big number reviewers. So, real quick, Six in the chat. Hello. Hey, Six, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. I see Brian in here as well. He says YouTube notifications be broken as hell. Yeah, I don't think YouTube is the best at that kind of stuff, or at least for smaller YouTubers, I think. Actually, I just read an article about YouTube and them just trying to profit as much as they can. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm just using the platform because it's the best one that I can use right now. And whenever that time comes to switch, I'll probably do that. So let's get started. Again, there's a lot of iPhone SE reviews, articles, videos. I have read or seen none of them. I think I tried to watch the MKBHD one earlier this morning, and then I was like, I'll just read them later because it is what it is. So I see Will in here too. with the Apple emoji. Will, welcome to the stream. How's it going, man? How you doing? And Max Tech Studios, hashtag TNT JoeFi. Hell yeah. Max Tech Studios, how you doing, man? Good afternoon or good morning, whatever time it is over by you. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so yeah, Brian also says the political reviewers. Yeah, the ones that might hold a punch or two back. We don't work that way here on TNT JoeFi. No matter how big I get, that's probably why I'll never get big, because I'll never stop pulling back my punches. Okay, so it's 12:20 p.m. Well, you're in the same time zone as me, Central Time Zone. So welcome again. Okay, let's get started, guys. Let's start talking about this. I guess the best way for me to put this here is this article from 9 to 5 Mac actually just has a whole roundup of reviews that are coming in for the iPhone SE. If you've been living under a rock or in a hole, or maybe you are because it's quarantine time. But the iPhone SE is the biggest news around, or it has been for quite some time now, since it got debuted or talked about. And the big thing about it is its price tag at $400. And the other notable thing here is everyone's talking about it because they put the A13 Bionic chip in it. If you're not familiar with what the A13 Bionic chip, it's their flagship chip, their best chip set from Apple that you can find in the latest iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max. Okay, so this article says iPhone SE review roundup, super value for the price, and the best budget smartphone out there. Reviews have dropped today for Apple's highly anticipated new entry-level iPhone, and it's getting overwhelmingly positive responses. Some of the feedback concludes it's, quote, everything you need, quote, a super value for the price, quote, the best budget smartphone out there, and that it could be, quote, the most important thing Apple's made this year. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that in a way. Kinda. When Apple launched the 2020 iPhone SE with the same processor as the iPhone 11 lineup, an updated camera with portrait mode features and 4K video recording, and a starting price of just $399, it was clear this would be fantastic for a lot of people, particularly those holding on to older iPhone models. Very true. Now, the first reviews are out today, and there is unanimous praise for the new entry-level iPhone. Here's what reviewers are saying, and take a look down below for all the videos as well. We're not going to look at the videos. We'll kind of just go through these little quotes here, and these little snippets, and just, kind of get a feel for how these, reviewers or whatever are feeling about the iPhone SE. The Verge calls it, quote, everything you need, and gives top marks for the battery life, camera, long software support from Apple, and concludes it will make customers consider what real value a $1,000 smartphone actually delivers. And that's not a bad way to put it. I think a lot of people, and this isn't just Apple. I mean, obviously Apple is now pushing the forefront on it because it's Apple and they get a lot of press, and, rightfully so. I mean, they make a good product, but I think really the starter here was not Apple. It was Google releasing their Pixel 3a, putting a top tier, camera phone or camera on their phone at a $400 price point. Apple is just now, putting their hat in, and it's a good thing because now this is going to force other companies to get on the ball about producing a $400 phone that, can compete with, the audience, compete with, not the audience, the consumer, and have them open their wallets and say, yeah, this is worth it for me. The iPhone SE shines a bright, clarifying light on the entire smartphone industry, putting even Apple's own top-end phones in sharp relief. What are you paying for when you spend $800 or $1,000 or even more for a phone? The list turns out to be more about niceties than necessities. TechCrunch highlights how much you're getting with the new iPhone SE for the money and calls it, quote, cheap, and cheerful. Simply, it's a super value for the price, just smashing really, and a damn good phone. Alas, I am too used to no home button for it to be really appealing to me, but this is going to be a great phone for millions of people. And talk about timing on the value side of things, $399 for an iPhone with Apple's latest power plant on board is huge. Yeah, that's obviously it's good timing for everything that's going on right now with the way the pandemic and this whole COVID-19 thing. People are they're tightening up their wallets. People are facing economic issues, and that's for a lot of people. And I mean, $400 for a phone is probably still expensive for a lot of people right now in what's going on. Another interesting point is the win-win situation of Apple doing well on its end with customers getting a great deal too when it comes to this new iPhone. This iteration of the iPhone is one of those rare moments where the business gets served, the users get served, and everyone comes out of it with a good deal. I actually like that. I like that philosophy because I think that should have been the philosophy from companies for a long time. But here we go, squeezing as much as we can out of the consumer. And I'm not saying the iPhone SE is the best phone out there. I'm not saying that, but I think it's meeting a price point where you're getting your money's worth. Let's put it that way. Most likely you're getting your money's worth. I'll know for sure when I get this phone on Friday and I'm able to test it out. And yeah, we'll see. Engadget says the iPhone SE is, quote, the best budget smartphone out there, and that it, quote, isn't just a good deal, it's a big deal. It's not just because the iPhone SE is cheap, though it certainly is. The base model costs only $399. No, what makes the SE so valuable is that it doesn't act like a $399 phone. The iPhone SE isn't just a good deal, it's a big deal for people clinging to ancient phones because new ones are too large, too expensive, or too gimmicky. The iPhone SE is the right phone at the right time at the right price. MKBHD says that with the iPhone SE's A13 processor and Apple's long software support, it has delivered one of the best value phones of the year and in a long time. Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but there's also, for a new phone that just comes out, sure. But I think there's also a case to be made of what a lot of tech reviewers, what a lot of tech pundits say is to kind of wait and hold off and wait for the other good deals to come out. I mean, yes, this is a very cheap phone coming out right now at this moment, but there are still deals that can be had. There's still good deals that you can find that are still brand new if you wait it out. So yeah, I get it. I understand, but you can still find good deals out there. Apple's not the first Apple's not the first company to do it. Justine says it's, quote, an incredible phone at such an incredible price. And that, quote, it's got all of the photo and video capabilities and it's fast enough to play all of the games that you would need to play. I don't know. That's a little weird because it's, yeah, maybe fast enough to play all of the games that you would need to play. But who's playing games on a small ass screen like that? I mean, maybe some people are, but I don't see it. I don't see it as much of a gaming phone as maybe. I mean, you're still gonna the display is probably one of its weaker points, right? It's a small screen. I guess if you want a small phone, but it's not the best media consumption phone. I mean, yeah, it can be. You can still use it, obviously. It's just, yeah. Okay. So I do have another article, and it is the full review for the iPhone SE from The Verge, Dieter. I like reading his stuff. I feel like he's pretty straightforward with most things. I mean, I don't read all of his stuff, but for the most part, he seems pretty on point. So I wanted to go over that. But before I do, I'll go back into chat here and see what everyone's up to. Okay, so Max Tech Studio says, how many subs do you have? Yeah, it's hidden. I had at one point 30,000, and then I was gone from YouTube for a year, and that's been dwindling since because YouTube doesn't put me in the algorithm. They don't show my shit to anybody. And I don't know if that's punishment for being gone for a year, but at this point, I'm just like, fuck it, do what you want to do. And that's what I'm doing. So I stream Monday through Friday, release stuff. That's why I'm like, I'm not going to be buying phones anymore because or buying every phone that comes out. I still want to buy phones, especially ones that are, I think useful for me, something that I would enjoy using. But in 2018, I played that game of like, let's get every phone. And even if I wasn't interested, I would say, let's get that phone anyway. And at that point, I was just spending way too much money. And I feel like a lot of YouTubers who do that now, you're buying these phones for subs. You're buying these phones so people can subscribe to you. Just so, I don't know. You take whatever approach you want. I don't want to sit here and like bitch and moan and hate because I played that game too. It's just that's not the game I'm playing today. So yeah, about 30,000 is where I'm at, and it's staying there probably for whoever knows how long. Demetrius Dukas the fourth. Hey Demetrius, how's it going, man? Good afternoon. How you doing? Hey Jerome, hope you doing well. I'm doing good. Yes, I just ended up watching Your Average Consumer MKBHD. Some other guys also, they all praised this $399 phone. Even the battery was okay, not bad, not great, around 4.5 hours of screen on time. Yeah, that's not bad. 4.5 hours of screen on time is, I guess, what I'm getting right now on my Pixel 4. Maybe a little less than 4.5 hours of screen on time. And I've also had to tweak some things to eke out a little more battery life. But yeah, I from what I'm seeing, it's not bad at all. Again, for me, my big question mark is the camera and how well it does. And it looks like, from what I'm seeing, it looks like it does pretty well during the day. As far as nighttime shots and low light shots, it looks really questionable there. And we'll see what that comes out as. We'll see. I mean, I really want to do a real, camera comparison review, because I think that's what I'm always interested in. And I think there's a group of people who are into smartphones who are really more interested in how well the camera does. So, we'll see. Ryan says, I saw that Your Average Consumer, he cheated a bit. He charged the phone a bit. Oh, well, there you go. I'm glad someone's saying something. No one called him out on that. Yeah, that's I don't know, whatever. We'll see when I get the phone. Okay, let's move on here, guys. This article from The Verge is pretty much titled iPhone SE 2020 review. Everything you need. Is it everything you need though? Apple iPhone SE review, blah, blah, blah. A strong case against $1,000 phone, or a strong case against $1,000 phones. What do you look for in a new iPhone? The top of the list likely includes battery life and camera quality. Yes, and yes. There are a bunch of other specs and features you'd probably put down lower on the list: speed, screen quality, size, extra cameras, and so on. Also true, although I think speed goes up there for me. But speed can get included in this list because I think the iPhone SE gives you that with its A13 Bionic chip. But the most important thing for that list comes not from the specs, but from the fact that you're looking for an iPhone. No, that's not. No, that isn't for me, at least. I'm not just looking for an iPhone. I'm looking for a good phone. There's a difference here. I don't really agree with this whole it's an iPhone, so it's an iPhone, so it's an iPhone, end of story. I hate that. I don't agree with that at all. Let's not just, say just because it's an iPhone, we're good. End of story. That's not how it works. The whole reasoning that there are tech reviewers and YouTubers talking about tech is that it's important to talk about phones that can give you a good overall experience. And if that was the case, then why are we even having these reviews? Why are we even talking about it? So I'm kind of like looking ahead here and seeing where he's going with it, but I don't agree with that statement at all. So he says here, something with access to iMessage. I don't use iMessage. I use Telegram. FaceTime. I don't use FaceTime. I don't really use, well, now that we're all working from home and teleconferencing or whatever, I mean, I use what I'm streaming with now, or I use Google Duo, but FaceTime I don't use that often. A huge library of great apps, reliable software updates, and more. You could cross shop with Android phones, but the switching cost is getting higher every year. Again, a lot of this depends. Yes, Apple has a very solid, robust ecosystem. I'm not taking that away. But I think it's important that we don't just pigeonhole ourselves and say, Apple, end of story, nothing else. That's not how that's how you end up getting trapped in, a system when a company that's why we keep talking about brand loyalty. Like, do not be brand loyal to these companies. I don't know. Again, my opinion, but I think it's important to be transparent about it and keep your options open. That's why I'm glad Apple has resurrected an old idea and released another iPhone SE. It starts at $399 for a model with 64 gigs of storage. For people who want an iPhone, it makes buying a brand new phone for less than $700 a whole lot easier. Before this week, you'd be choosing between refurbs or switching over to Android. Pointing out that the iPhone SE is an iPhone is redundant, but it's important for people who don't want to switch. It's also a guarantee of a base level of quality. That makes this review simple. How much are you giving up when you're only paying $399? Less than you might guess. We won't go through those points here. We'll go through this actual article. If you ever held an iPhone 8, 7, 6S, or 6, then you already know the basic shape of the 2020 iPhone SE. It has a 4.7-inch screen with big bezels above and below, a big circular home button on the bottom with a fingerprint sensor embedded in it, and nicely curved corners and edges. It's what you probably still think of as the canonical, did I say that right? Canonical iPhone. Even though the new ones have bigger screens, Face ID, and those notches, Apple's had this design since 2014, and it's sticking with it. Keeping that design is likely a big reason for the low cost. Yes, obviously. They're not reinventing the wheel here. They're just replacing the guts. There's no need for Apple to retool its factories to build it. I get all of that, but I also get that this design looks tired in 2020. Yes, it does. There are many comparably priced Android phones that have managed to reduce their bezels. That's not just an aesthetic consideration either. Smaller bezels mean you can fit a bigger screen in a smaller phone body. The bezels are a bother, but the build quality is not. And I give Apple a lot of props for that. Year after year after year, their build quality is top notch. I will give it that. Apple's long history with this phone design means that it's rock solid. There's no flex, no gross seams, no gaps. The 4.7-inch LCD display is as good as ever, with True Tone to help color match your surroundings. It's an iPhone, and there's a comforting sense of familiarity to it. For those of you hanging on to the original iPhone SE in the hopes that Apple would make another small phone, I acknowledge you and your sadness. This is simply the way phones are these days. I will say it's a very common experience for people to resist bigger screens and then love them when they finally give in, but that may not be yours. If it helps, it won't. There aren't any good tiny Android phones right now either. And I think for a while, I have been a compact, smaller form factor phone guy for a while. And that's also why I used to own a bunch of Sony Xperia phones, because they had a compact design and I loved it. I love their designs on their phones. And then I don't know. I really haven't, kept up to date with Sony in a while, but again, I'm more of the stock Android guy, and that's kind of the route I've always been wanting to go in. It actually makes me think of, when I think of the old Nexus phones, I think of like the Nexus 4 was that phone that was like all glass, right? And that was a smaller form factor, but it was the Nexus 5. The Nexus 5, I liked the form factor a lot. I thought that was a really good in between, not too small, not too big form factor. And I really like that phone. I don't know if we're going to have days like those again, but maybe we will, especially with what's happening right now. As with the iPhone 7 and 8, the home button isn't a physical button, but simply a spot on the bottom that gives you a tactile tap back when you press it. I'm happy to say that Apple hasn't skimped on the haptics on this phone. They feel great. Another big plus for Apple here is their haptics. They've always knocked that out of the park more than any other manufacturer. I don't think I've had another phone that's had better haptics than an iPhone. It's only IP67 water resistant, so it's okay to get wet, but don't leave it in water for too long. That's something I'm too concerned about. It's glass on the back too to enable wireless charging. Both are relative rarities at this price point. The last hardware thing I'll note is there is no headphone jack. It's only worth pointing out because most inexpensive Android phones still do offer a headphone jack. Apple includes Lightning earpods in the box, but not an adapter. It also has Apple's standard dinky 5-watt charger, so while the iPhone SE supports fast charging, the included charger doesn't. Inside that familiar shell, there are two major upgrades to the iPhone SE, the processor and the camera. Let's talk processor first. It has the A13 Bionic, which is impressive because it's the same processor as the iPhone 11 Pro. There is no faster processor in a smartphone for any price. So yes, the iPhone SE is fast, but that's not why the processor matters. The processor is important because it ensures that the iPhone SE will get OS updates for many years to come. That's a really good point there. I still have the original iPhone SE released in March 2016, and Apple supported it with the latest iOS update last year. 4 years later, and that iPhone has the most up-to-date software. You got to give Apple credit for that. You really do. You can't say that about a lot of Android phones. It's just the next paragraph. Most Android phones, from the cheapest to the most expensive, top out at 2 years of updates. Even the best, Google's Pixel line, are only guaranteed updates for 3 years. As I said last week, it's not just about the $399 cost. It's about how often you have to spend it. No other phone at this price will last as long as the iPhone SE will in terms of software support. Speaking of longevity, battery life on the iPhone SE is all right, but not stellar. I'm getting through a full day averaging between 4 and 5 hours of screen on time. I was hoping the A13 Bionic processor would unlock the longer battery life we got with the iPhone 11, but it seems that was mostly about battery size, and the SE has the same battery size as the iPhone 8. It's enough for today, but in a few years, you may be turning to a battery case on the regular or seeking out a repair shop to replace your battery. This is actually something that Brian's pointed out in not only chat here, but also in like a little group chat that we have, that yeah, the iPhone SE might be good right now as in terms of battery life, but give it a year and a half of heavy use, and that battery is going to start to take its toll, especially when it's not going to be, as strong as it is in capacity as it is when you first got it. So that's something to keep in mind too. The iPhone SE has just one 12 megapixel camera on the back and a 7 megapixel selfie camera on the front. There are two ways of looking at these cameras, both valid. The first is for $399. For a $399 phone, the cameras are absolutely great, and any complaints or gripes should be promptly dismissed given that price. The second is that they're quite good, but have some baffling shortcomings that Apple could have overcome, even at this price point. So yeah, these look like really great shots. I mean, at least from the naked eye, just looking at it offhand, these are very clear, like color looks really nice. Well taken shots. In any sort of bright lighting conditions, the iPhone SE takes absolutely lovely photos, which is true. Not only true for the iPhone SE, but for a lot of phones. They're clean in the details, color accurate, and just the right amount of sharp. Dynamic range is also quite good. In fact, in daylight conditions, it can be hard to tell the difference between this $400 phone and a $1,000 iPhone 11 Pro. So iPhone Pro is on the left, iPhone 11 Pro is on the left, iPhone SE is on the right. Yeah, there's not much difference here. A little cooler on the iPhone 11 Pro, but otherwise they look almost identical. I mean, I would have to zoom 100% in to really see, but for a shot like this, yeah, they both look great. Apple says that the iPhone SE is able to do more than it otherwise would because of that A13 Bionic processor. It allows for portrait mode, or more specifically, more kinds of portrait modes on both cameras. For example, Apple has given this capability a very Apple-esque technical name, monocular depth estimation. Okay. But unlike the single lens portrait mode on Pixel phones, the iPhone SE isn't taking advantage of sub-pixel calculations. It's using machine learning models to estimate depth of field. So the iPhone SE rear camera in portrait mode, and then the iPhone SE front selfie camera. It's nice to see that they both are capable of taking portrait shots. Looking at this rear camera already, you can see here it's not using the depth 100%. You can see that this is not bokeh out or here, bokeh out. That's such a weird thing to say because that's not really how it works. But this hair here too is not as defined. So it's not going to be perfect. I didn't expect it to be perfect. This actually looks better on the front camera than this rear one here, to be honest with you. I think that the iPhone 11 Pro manages portraits slightly better than the SE, but I also think that by and large, portrait modes on phones all break down when you look closely. Well, I don't know if Dieter's taken time to really mess around with the portrait mode on the Pixel 4 because that works excellently, much better than the iPhone 11 Pro. And I've said this already in the past, but the iPhone 11 Pro camera in portrait mode completely beats out the iPhone 11 Pro. Did I say that right? Now I'm not sure if the Pixel 4 in portrait mode is a lot better in terms of the iPhone 11 Pro in portrait mode. So much so that like even those little things that I was picking out here don't show on the Pixel 4. Obviously, this is the iPhone SE, but we'll see when I get this phone. The A13 Bionic also enables Apple's enhanced HDR and semantic rendering features. The former ensures the background doesn't get too blown out, and the latter knows what you're taking a photo of and works to light it better. I particularly noticed both when taking photos with a bright sky in the background. A photo that would have tripped up any iPhone before the XR and maybe would have done a number on the XR too. This is all great, but the disappointment comes with low light photography. This is the thing that I have been wondering about since they were talking about this phone, since they released it. The iPhone SE simply doesn't do as well there as it does in other situations. There's no night mode, and in dim light, there's just too much noise. It's almost like the whole camera panics and overcorrects, especially on portraits. I was hoping there were going to be pictures of the iPhone SE versus the iPhone 11 Pro, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah, these are obviously very dimly lit shots. The noise doesn't seem too bad, but man, I would really like to compare it with well, I'll get my chance when the phone comes Friday. Hopefully it comes on Friday, but we'll see. I'm not sure why the A13 Bionic allows the iPhone SE to gain all of those other benefits, but not better night shots. I think Apple might be crippling it on purpose. I mean, that's all theory at this point. I think Apple could actually make night mode a thing for the iPhone SE, but I don't think that they want to completely give everything to the iPhone SE because they don't want it to hamper their iPhone 11 sales. That's my theory. I'm not going to say that night mode is a solved problem by any stretch, but Google has been doing it on cut rate hardware for a couple of years now, so it's certainly possible. And Apple's camera would, in theory, be up to it given the processor is the same as its more expensive phones. But before you put a crown on the Pixel 3a or the upcoming Pixel 4a, I want to point you to the iPhone SE's video capabilities. It absolutely punches above its weight class. That's good to know. With 4K stabilized both optically and with software, extended dynamic range, and the option to go as high as 4K at 60 frames per second. Those are really good points here. If you can get better video performance out of any phone that costs less than $500, I'd like to see it. That's actually really I didn't think much about video at that point, but that makes a lot of sense. So the left here is the 2016 iPhone SE, and then the right side is the 2020 iPhone SE. Yeah, that's a markedly improved shot. Very much so. Less noise, much clearer, much more focused, better exposed. Yeah, looks great. Bottom line, if you're upgrading from any iPhone older than the XR, I think you'll see a marked improvement. I was just saying that. It's just weird. If you've been hanging on to anything as old as the original SE 6 or S6s, the improvement will be dramatic. The iPhone SE shines a bright. We read this part already. As I write this, I have an iPhone 11 Pro, Galaxy S20, OnePlus 8 Pro, and Pixel 4 XL within arm's reach. Each has a multi-camera system, an advanced biometric identification system, and a big, nearly bezel-less OLED display. In the case of the Android phones, they also have high refresh rate screens that make everything look radically smoother. Is is all of that worth the cost? Sure, for a lot of people. Is any of it necessary? Other than low light photography, there's virtually nothing that I do on those $1,000 phones that I can't do equally well on the iPhone SE. I like that because that kind of speaks to me. That is the one thing that I have said in many of my camera comparison videos. In just probably I've said it many times on stream. I feel like a lot at this point for a lot of phones, the differentiating factor is its camera in low light shots. There is a case to be made though now when I'm thinking about it, and video as well. Video, how well the audio picks up. When I say video, I'm talking about audio on top of that. But yeah, low light photography is probably the biggest differentiator I've noticed, in at least for me, in a lot of my phones. I and that's why I make a big deal about it, because there's not much else to compare. There really is not much else to compare. You know, we can talk about battery life, we can talk about screen size, we can talk about all of that stuff, but I think what makes a big difference in a lot of this is its camera. That's why I talk about cameras so much. That's why I make a lot of these like camera. I mean, obviously I do a lot of photography work, so it's important to me in that respect, but most phones, and that's why I'm also saying don't just stick with one brand, because there are other phones that do other great things. Okay. If I were buying the iPhone SE, I'd seriously consider spending the extra $50 to upgrade the storage to 128 gigs. I also recommend that, especially if this is just going to be your phone for the next couple of years, just in case I'd want it 3 or 5 years down the road. That time span is the reason the iPhone SE is a big deal. No other phone that costs less than $500 can claim to be this good nor last that long. The iPhone SE is not just a good deal, it's also a really good smartphone. I think the article is pretty fair. I think it makes its case. I would like them. Well, I would have liked Dieter to talk more about maybe just, you know, how the display affects him, having it that small. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's why he didn't mention it. But, you know, battery life as well. I mean, he did mention it here. I mean, I think these are things that we expected. So who knows? Okay, I'm going here to look at chat. I see a couple super chats. Okay, let me get super chats first. I'll go back up to chat. Moodster with a $10 super chat. Hello, I think OnePlus does not charge tax nor shipping. That's a big savings versus the other brands. Keep up the great work. Loving it. Moodster, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for, man, again, like I've said to other people, thank you, especially during this time, to take the time to you know, open your wallet and support what I do. It means a lot to me. It encourages me to keep doing this and doing what I'm doing. But yes, you also make a great point. And this is actually something I've made a point in my past videos. OnePlus does not charge tax. You get it straight to your door, shipped to your door. I remember when I said that in one of my older videos, somebody commented and they were like, well, you're supposed to report that and you need to pay tax. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is what I pay. That's what they said to pay. So I paid it. But you do make a great point. And again, that's why this would also fit my $500 price point, because right now you could get the OnePlus 7T for $499 brand new from OnePlus. And that's all you pay, $499 straight up. I don't know if delivery is free. I think it is. But yeah. Great point. It is a big savings versus the other brands. But again, Moodster, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I don't know if you know this, but now I've been putting donators' names in the intros and outros of my videos. So if you haven't, you know, I try to give people shout outs there. So your name's up there. It's been there. And I put it in descending order of how much people donated. But again, thank you so much, Moodster. Appreciate it. And Brian here with the $1 super chat. Brian, thank you so much. I should have Brian on I think Brian has been like on a streak longer than anybody of super chats. But Brian, thank you for the $1 super chat, man. Again, you know how much that means. You know how much that means to me. So appreciate the support. Appreciate you guys just coming in chat. and doing this. Brian also says, going to be driving, can't be typing and driving, hoping to be back as soon as possible. Do your thing, man. Don't worry, no worries. Appreciate you just stopping by. Okay, let me scroll up here real quick just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Will says, yeah, but if you're not looking for an iPhone, you wouldn't consider this phone. Yeah, no, obviously. No, great point. There's not much to say here. Let's see here. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about something other than Apple. I know that, this has been the talk of the week or whatever. It's completely overshadowed a lot of OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro stuff, but there is other stuff going around. So this article from Android Authority is talking about, I didn't put my phones on silent. Sorry about that. Actually, let me do that right now. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Just, I don't want like this going off and interrupting you or interrupting the stream. Okay, so this article I have here from Android Authority is titled Galaxy S20 Ultra Doesn't Top DxO Mark Listings. You be the judge. I'm guessing they're providing camera samples, which is why I pulled this article up. But the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra has one of the most impressive camera setups we've seen on a smartphone yet, packing a 108 megapixel main camera with Nana binning tech. I haven't heard that term. With Nana binning tech, a 4x periscope camera, and 100x digital zoom. Now, camera testing company DxOMark has put the Galaxy S20 Ultra through its paces, giving it an overall score of 122 points. This puts it in 6th place, just ahead of the Mate 30 Pro and just behind the Honor V30 Pro. Other phones ranked ahead of the $1,400 device include the top-seeded Huawei P40 Pro, 128 points, Oppo Find X2 Pro, 124 points, and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro, 124 points. Okay, I don't really care about these points. They can rank it the way that they want, which is fine. I think for a lot of people, it really just depends on how you take your pictures, what you like, and how it suits you. Because I think for a lot of people, it's going to be fine for most. Again, what I've said before is a lot of this differences. Well, a lot of the differences usually come to its low light photography. So here, this shot, is this just one image? It's just one image. I thought this would have made me zoom in. So, the S20 Ultra, excellent color rendering. iPhone 11 Pro in the center here, good color rendering, and then on the right, slightly warm. So obviously, yeah, it's a bit warm. Excellent versus good. Yeah, this is a little bluer. I guess it does have a bit more dynamic range, but it's not. It's a little cooler. This is a bit warmer. I would have to look into the details to really see. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra earned a photo score of 132 points, with DxOMark praising the colors, dynamic range, its handling of noise, exposure, and color reproduction in ultra-wide shots, and pictures taken with the flash. But the testing firm lamented slow autofocus at night, which, again, I've seen is a big issue on the S20 Ultra in terms of focusing, not having the best focus. And then I know when they updated it, it's still having focusing issues. So you're paying $1,400 for a phone that has maybe minimal differences in its camera, and I just don't think it's worth it. Plus, then you're getting Samsung UI, which I'm not a big fan of, but maybe you are, and so maybe that's a non-factor, but that's me. But the testing firm lamented slow autofocus at night, fusion artifacts in zoom shots, detail in ultra-wide snaps, and aspects of the night mode. The phone was awarded a video score of 102 points, with the testing company praising the level of noise in most situations, accurate exposure in low light, and the colors and stabilization when filming outdoors. It wasn't all good, though, as the company criticized the dynamic range in high contrast moments, a hue shift under tungsten lighting, low detail in low light, and motion effects when shooting indoors. That's it. There's not much in here. Okay. It's worth noting that DxOMark isn't the be all end all when it comes to camera capabilities between individual preferences and features not tested by the firm. For example, single take mode, 8K recording, the ability to pull 33 megapixel stills from said 8K clips. The S20 Ultra is still a standout performer for many users. Yeah, I guess so. I don't have one. I just $1,400 for a phone is a lot of money. DxOMark, like they said, isn't the measuring stick here. I think you can get a lot more. You can get a bigger benefit just looking at YouTube tech reviews as long as they're non-biased, right? And then just using it for yourself and seeing how well something like this works. Yeah, there's not much to say. I pulled this article up because I actually thought they were going to show me like camera comparisons and we could have taken the time to go through it. That's, I don't know, kind of a fluff piece. Like, I don't really care about DxO Mark. Yeah, you can use it as a guide, but don't use it as the Bible. That's the best way I can put it. Okay, so I see here Aquarium Conversations with a $2 super chat. Aquarium Conversations, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Has Motorola lost their mind? Razer, now the Edge. Yeah, did you see my video that I put out yesterday? I did mention it in the stream about the Motorola Edge Plus. I haven't seen, right? Did they just release it today with all the specs and everything? Yeah, I don't really know what Motorola is doing. I don't know who's managing them, who's under their marketing firm, who's deciding to make all these exclusive phones with Verizon. But yeah, I really wish Motorola would come back to their senses and start putting out some good, well-priced phones. I know there are some cheaper phones in the market, but I also know that they were going with stock Android for a while. That's why they made the Motorola One series, but now I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I read an article saying that Motorola said, well, the audience or the consumer doesn't really care about stock Android, but I don't know if Motorola knows what consumers want anymore. I'm pretty sure consumers don't want $1,000 phone from Verizon that has bloatware that you can only buy from the carrier that's, carrier locked, that has 1 year of update support. It's going to get Android 11 and then that's it. It's going to have no more support after that. Yeah, I think they've lost their mind. But Aquarium Conversations, thank you for the $2 super chat. I have said this earlier, but I don't know if you know, in the beginning of my intros and outros, I do now shout people out who have donated in super chat. So thank you. Thank you for the $2. Your name showed up earlier today and it will again at the end, and it will from now on for people who do super chat. So Aquarium Conversations, thank you for the support, man. It means a lot to me. And welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Gar Trigger earlier says the wait for the Pixel 4a is killing me. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to come out. I'm assuming next month. I'm assuming sometime in May. If they've already shown pictures of the box, right, like they're ready to distribute it, then I'm assuming it's coming soon. I'm guessing probably by end of month next month. I would say third week of May. That's don't quote me on that, but that's my guesstimation is third week of May. But Gar Trigger, welcome to the stream, welcome to the chat. Yeah, I'm waiting for it too. I want to see how it holds up and see how well it does. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay, guys. So let's move on. I have this article from Android Police, and now it went away. No, it's just because it's their new stuff. Okay. OnePlus 8 Pro versus OnePlus 7T Pro. Is the price hike justified? How much more phone do you get for your money? Can you still buy a OnePlus 7T Pro? Did they even sell the 7T Pro in the States, or was that just a T-Mobile thing? The OnePlus 8 Pro is the company's most expensive phone ever. It starts at $900, which is $200 more than the OnePlus 7 Pro, which was priced similarly to the newer 7T Pro that launched in markets outside the US. Okay, so only in the US. The 5G McLaren edition 7T Pro also cost $900. So that gave us some idea of the additional cost of having 5G on board. I think that's just them marking it up regardless. Given the price increase, you'd hope enough has changed. You'd hope enough has changed to make it worth shelling out the extra money. Thankfully, there are a few noteworthy upgrades that do seem to justify a higher price, although there are also some attributes less deserving of praise. Let's run through all that's changed and try to make sense of it all. From a design perspective, there's a clear family resemblance, yet these two phones feel very different in the hand. The OnePlus 8 Pro is taller, a shade narrower, and also a little lighter, so it doesn't seem quite so cumbersome to hold. Although it looks similar from a distance, the camera bump is substantially larger on the newer phone. The alert slider is smaller and less prone to accidental changes, thankfully. The bezel around the bottom of the display is ever so slightly smaller, but the top portion is now interrupted by a punch hole cutout. Gone is the motorized pop-up selfie camera from the last 2 generations, for better or worse. I think for worse. I've said this before, but that pop-up camera, I think, really would have stood out in front of other phones, especially when you're charging phones at such a high price. I think that pop-up camera feature is a great feature that I wish they didn't remove. What most irks me about the 8 Pro's design is the more aggressive curves on either side of the display. They create an off-angle color shift that I'm never able to ignore, but some people may find this more agreeable. I agree, though, that having the curves like that is not my choice. I would rather not have phones that create that curved design that way, again, for accidental touches. But this is also a good point. You get an off-angle color shift. You have things that just, they don't look right, and that's part of the, I think, compromise when you get a phone that has a curved display. I must say this glacial green color option is probably the best I've ever seen on a phone. Yeah, I really like that color too, and I know others who feel similarly about the vivid ultramarine blue. The matte frosted glass is great at hiding fingerprints and smudges, and it just pops beautifully in the right light. That about wraps up the meaningful external differences, but what about the internals? So the 8 Pro versus the 7T Pro, a Snapdragon 865 versus an 855 Plus. This one you can get with 12 gigs of RAM. The 8 Pro has a bigger display, and then apparently the camera's a lot better, but by how much, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to get to test that out because I just don't want to spend the money for a phone like that. A much bigger battery this time with the 8 Pro. You also get fast wireless charging. You get an IP rating and a couple other things, right? You also get a much higher price tag. So let's see here. The features you've been waiting for. There are 2 key additions to that OnePlus 8 Pro that fans and critics alike have long been calling for: wireless charging and an IP rating. I mean, yeah, I think some fans have been waiting for that, but I think some fans don't really care. Like me included, I am not the biggest fan of wireless charging, and I really couldn't care much about an IP rating. Are they nice to have? Sure. It's nice to know that my phone is IP certified and whatever, but if it's going to jump the price up to like an ungodly amount, then I'd rather not. I'd rather you go fix things like I've said before, like the camera, make the camera better. Don't put a bunch of extra cameras on there. I would rather, and I said this again, I'd rather have one quality camera than multiple sensors that I'm probably not even going to use or that are mediocre. Quality versus quantity. Whether you buy that or not, cost savings surely has something to do with it. The OnePlus 8 Pro has surprised many by launching with insanely fast wireless charging. Warp Charge has been capable of outputting 30 watts for the last couple of generations, and now its wireless solution matches that. So long as you fork out $70 for the proprietary charger. Again, that's just an added cost. You're paying $900 for this OnePlus 8 Pro, and then you got to pay an extra $70 for the wireless charger if you want to take advantage of that. So you're paying almost close to $1,000 at this point. Although OnePlus has claimed that the 7T Pro and other recent phones have water and dust proofing built in, they've still lacked an official IP rating. This was once again a cost-cutting measure that, since certification isn't free, but OnePlus has finally given in. We'll move down here. The other reason it's so expensive, and here, they go talking about the 5G modem that's in it. Every phone that's so far launched with a Qualcomm processor and a 5G modem has been pricier than its LTE only equivalent, but the difference with the Snapdragon 865 is that 5G is mandatory. The X55 5G modem is non-negotiable, which means any OEM wanting to outfit their phone with 2020's flagship chip has no choice but to go all in with 5G, and that comes at a significant cost. This is also why I'm kind of happy to see Google making their own chip, because then this can offset a lot of this bullshit, right? And maybe if this is the reason that prices are going so high, then maybe this will offset it. Hopefully. What else is new? Since the pop-up camera is gone, that means an all-new display with a punch hole camera cutout. It's slightly larger at 6.78 inches. And then again, the OnePlus 8 Pro is going to have the 120 hertz refresh rate, quad HD display. So, you're getting an excellent display. obviously. Let's see here. The display brightness also maxes out at 1300 nits, now far higher than the previous generation. And it's now got a color adapting feature akin to True Tone on the iPhone or ambient EQ on a Pixel. Cameras haven't always been OnePlus's strong suit, but real progress has been made with recent models. And we can go through that, but I would rather see the camera samples and really see what they look like instead of just reading all that technical jargon. Is it worth the money? All in all, the OnePlus 8 Pro represents a polished smartphone experience that exceeds anything the company has put out before. Sure, it's more expensive, but some of that is down to the state of high-end Qualcomm processors in 2020. If you want to buy a OnePlus 8 Pro but don't intend to use 5G, you'll be understandably miffed at having to pay a premium for functionality you don't need, but the same will be true of many flagship smartphones to come out this year. Apart from that, the price hike can be explained by the addition of meaningful features such as rapid wireless charging and an IP68 rating, not to mention other top-of-the-line elements such as the excellent display, decent cameras, and refined design. Here's the thing is, for me, I would have bought the OnePlus 8 over the OnePlus 8 Pro if the cameras were the same, but they are deciding to go with different cameras this time, forcing you to buy the OnePlus 8 Pro if you're a camera person and you just are buying the phone because you want the better camera, which I think is pretty shitty because, you look at, Apple used to do that back in the day, but they don't do that anymore when you buy. So like there's the iPhone 11 Pro and then the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And if you want, there's no difference now. You get the same camera experience. You don't have to buy the Pro Max to get the best of the best when it comes to its camera. The Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL, the same reasoning. You don't have to buy the 4 XL if you want the better camera. You can buy the 4. But here, OnePlus isn't doing that. OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 8 Pro have completely different cameras, and that's disappointing to see. That's it. That's all I wanted to share there. It's too bad we never got our hands on the OnePlus 7T Pro. I'm pretty sure maybe you could use it in the States. Maybe it wouldn't have all the bands, but I don't even know what they go for now, or if you can even still buy it. Maybe it's just a swap a thing at this point. Okay, moving on. This article from Android Central. Nubia Play is a sub $350 5G gaming phone with a 144 hertz display, 5100 milliamp hour battery. I think I talked about this the other day, but yesterday I talked about the Nubia Red Magic 5G and how it's like jam-packed with specs. It might not have everything in it, but it comes at a pretty decent price, and so does this phone. So Nubia's second gaming phone to feature a 144 hertz display. So it's going to have a high-end display, and it's still going to be under $350. What you need to know: Nubia has launched a new gaming-focused mid-ranger with a 144 hertz AMOLED display. The Nubia Play is powered by a Snapdragon 765G. Again, this is the Snapdragon chipset that they're going to be putting in the Pixel 5, supposedly, and packs a large 5100 milliamp hour battery with 30 watt fast charging. Those are pretty decent specs. 144 hertz display or 144 hertz refresh rate display, Snapdragon 765G, 5100 milliamp hour battery, 30 watt fast charging. Those are pretty good specs. I don't know about the camera, but for under $350, so it says here 23.99 yuan. $340 US. So ZTE launched the world's first smartphone with a 144 hertz display last month called the Red Magic 5G. The company has now launched a more affordable 5G gaming phone with a 144 hertz display and slightly less impressive tech specs. So a 6.65 inch FHD plus AMOLED display panel, 144 hertz refresh rate, Snapdragon 765G, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage. Those are really high-end specs. So it has a quad camera setup, 48 megapixel main sensor, an ultra-wide, a macro lens, and a depth sensor. Has a 12 megapixel selfie camera. I don't know if this is something we can use in the States. Again, it's something that I would really like to get my hands on. The UI is probably going to be not good on it, but that's what the modding community is for, and is actually something I'm really interested in trying out. I think from this point moving forward if I end up getting phones like this. But the Nubia Play will be available in China in black, blue, and white color options starting April 24th. Prices start at 23.99 yuan, $340 for the base 6 gig, 128 gig version, and go up to 29.99 yuan, $425 for the 8 gig, 256 gig version. Those are still great deals for both of them. Nubia hasn't announced any plans of launching the phones in markets outside China yet. Again, thought that was interesting. I would love to see these cheaper phones come out to the States and give these higher end Android phones that are packing all of these high end specs a better run for their money, or at least forcing these other companies to lower their prices. Okay, so Samsung might have just leaked its most stunning smartphone design yet. This article from BGR is talking about what could be the Galaxy Note 20. I think this was more of a fluff article. I really skimmed through it, or I just skimmed through it just to see what it was about. But Samsung is widely expected to unveil its next flagship series in early August, regardless of what happens with the novel coronavirus health crisis. That's the Galaxy Note 20, which will be joined by a new foldable, the Galaxy Fold 2. The Galaxy Note 20 is expected to look a lot like the Galaxy S20 when it comes to the overall design. I'm actually really surprised that they're going to be coming out with a Galaxy Note 20, considering the Galaxy S20 is already huge, and then there's going to be S20 Ultra. So they're going to make a Galaxy S20 Ultra, or they have a Galaxy S20 Ultra, and then they're going to have a Note 20 Ultra. That's crazy. That's crazy to think that they're going to have these two big ass phones, and I don't know. So apparently this image came out here, and this middle picture here is what people are talking about because there's no notch, there's no punch hole, there's nothing. So Samsung used the image above inside the Samsung Rewards section of its Galaxy store under the dollar spot themes category per Sam Mobile. The phone in the middle is placed between the Galaxy S10 Plus and Galaxy S20, and it resembles the Galaxy Note 10. There's nothing to prove the device is the Note 20, although that's the most immediate guess. Again, it's hearsay. I mean, I'm looking at this and I think these icons are also stretched too. I just think something might be up with the phone or the image that's in here. Samsung manufactures some of the best OLED screens available for mobile devices, and it's likely its display unit is already developing screens with built-in cameras. But there's no indication the technology is ready for widespread adoption. Yeah, it says here that unknown device in the middle there could have a hole punch camera in the top left corner. Oh, that's also a good point. Who knows? The closer we get to August, the more Note 20 leaks we'll see, and it's just a matter of time until the phone's final design is revealed. So we don't know. I think it's more of a fluff article. I brought it up because it was here and I was like, oh, maybe it's something, but it's not much of anything. I see Mint Arcade. Hey, all. Hey, Mint Arcade. How's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you stopping by. No notification on today's live stream, not even showing up on my subscription feed. Had to check the channel to find the stream. That sucks, man. And I mean, that might be the reason the numbers are why it is. I mean, it doesn't matter for me. The show must go on. YouTube being YouTube, doing what they're doing, they're good at that. What can I say? I'm glad that you took the time to check and see that, I actually am streaming today. I don't know why they didn't, say anything, or why it's not showing live or whatever. I should actually check my my actual settings, but I'm pretty sure I set it to public. So for whatever reason, that sucks, but what are you going to do? It is what it is. So thanks for stopping by, Mint Arcade. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not going to go through this story, and I'm actually probably going to end this stream after this. So this last article I have here is from Android Police. And it is another Samsung thing here. Samsung Galaxy watches will soon be able to read your blood pressure, which actually wouldn't be bad. Sometimes I go to those like grocery stores where you like feed your arm through that whatever blood pressure machine just to see where I'm at, like making sure everything's okay. So exclusive to the Galaxy Watch Active 2 in Korea at first, and will require a calibration cuff. Yeah, they might be able to check your blood pressure, which is actually really cool if that is pretty accurate. I don't know if it is or it will be, but pretty cool to see. Samsung has been working on adding blood pressure measurements to its wearables for a while. It launched a limited test of that feature for the original Watch Active back in 2019. And now, about a year later, the company has announced that the South Korean government has authorized its brand new Health Monitor app. It's capable of taking blood pressure with nothing but the Watch Active 2, plus some calibration help from a traditional cuff, and will be available in the country in the third quarter of 2020. In contrast to simple pulse measurements, accurate blood pressure readings are harder to pull off. To make results as precise as possible, you'll first need to calibrate your watch with a traditional cuff 3 times. Okay. With that information at hand, the watch can read blood pressure through pulse wave analysis, tracked via its heart rate sensor. The cuff calibration has to be repeated at least every 4 weeks to ensure accuracy. While the app won't let you forego a cuff altogether, it will make life much easier for people who depend on continuous measurements. You shouldn't change your medication based on the watch's readings. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, don't use this as the most accurate form of measurement. If you do have blood pressure issues, make sure you check it the proper way. I'm pretty sure if you do have blood pressure issues, maybe you have a blood pressuring monitoring system at home. So use that. Don't just use the watch. But it might help you get a clearer picture while you're out and about, thanks to Health Monitor's built-in graphics and statistics. Samsung says the Health Monitor app will be available for the Galaxy Watch Active 2 in Korea in the third quarter and come to other Galaxy watches later. That's it. Just thought I'd share that. I thought it was a little interesting, especially as somebody who is interested in just health and general, fitness. It's nice to see. It might be something that other companies could do, which wouldn't be bad either. Okay, guys, that might be it. Min Arcade says, note to Jerome, you may want to check out an Asus Zenfone 6. I may say it's the best mid-range last year. I'm looking forward to what 7's gonna look like. Yeah, I'll do a little research and see. I know I've heard of the Zenfone, and actually, I think I thought I had one, but I didn't. I might be thinking of something else. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Seems like I arrive at the end stream. Well, you didn't even get a notification. So like, how are you gonna? It's okay, man. I appreciate you stopping by. It means a lot to me. It really does. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm sitting here trying to pull up the outro, so I have an outro to play for you guys. But yeah, for everybody that came by, I mean, I'm sorry if you didn't get the notification. That's not up to me. I don't make those decisions. That's YouTube being YouTube. But it is what it is. But again, I'll be back tomorrow and Friday because I stream every day at 12 p.m. Central, regardless if I have, 20, 50 people in the chat or if it's just me. If I'm just talking to myself, hey, like, I'm still here to report the news because I find it interesting. And if people watch it, cool. If they don't. But again, for everyone who stopped by, appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate anyone who's watching this on replay. I will see you guys tomorrow. So again, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for everybody earlier who donated in Super Chat. Thanks for people engaging in chat. Thanks for just, talking with me, talking tech. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Later.